can interpret. Okay.
Thank you so much, Claudine, yes, for interpreting, but thanks also, Kirsty, for giving us that housekeeping. Welcome everybody to today's session. I'm just going to give a few little ground rules before we start with the presentation, because the presentation will potentially make you feel a lot of feelings because it's very direct. It's going to spell out in no uncertain terms how difficult the journey is of reporting rape. Regardless of whether you're a deaf person or not, it's very difficult. You might find some of the information that we give quite triggering, and if you feel overwhelmed by that, that is why we have the counselors available. So if there's something that really overwhelms you, then you have the option of speaking to a counselor now. And if that leads to your needing further counseling later on, we will arrange a referral for you. Robin and our counselors have been working together on that. So don't worry if not everything is resolved by the end of tonight, or if tonight leaves you with ongoing feelings, we'll be able to help you with that. And that's not to say that you have to feel that way. It might be that the information that we give you tonight is empowering. In fact, that's the goal. We want you to feel empowered by the information that we're giving you. And that's why we're leaving quite a bit of time for questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a 10-minute presentation, then a time for questions, and then another 10-minute presentation if we need it. It might be that we gather enough from the first presentation and the questions that we don't need it. But if we do need it, then that's what we'll do. So just to reassure you that everything that happens in tonight's session is confidential. Only the people that are in the session will be able to know what happens and speak about what happens. Of course, we have a debriefing afterwards separately from you. We will talk about the session there, but not further beyond that. It's really private to what we are all here gathered tonight speaking about. And of course, no question is forbidden. You can ask any kind of question you like. If it's a question of clarity around the presentation, and not to feel like there is any question too silly or too trivial or too complicated. We will do our best to answer them, and if we can't answer them, we'll make it clear that that's not for the topic tonight. So without any further ado, I'm going to go on to the presentation. So first, you can give me the first slide. So the first thing after being raped is to go to a safe space. And what a safe space looks like for one person might not be what a safe space looks like for another person. For some people, a police station is a safe space. For other people, it really isn't. And so it's entirely up to you to make that decision. If you do go to a police station, the best police station to go to is the one nearest to where the rape happened, because that is where the case will be investigated. But just to make it very clear right from the start, you don't have to go to the police to get medical attention. You can just go to your nearest hospital. The next very important thing is who you tell. If by any chance this case does get to court at some point, then you want witnesses on your side to help corroborate your story. The first person you talk to is really important. They will be one of the witnesses that is called upon in court to verify that what you told the police is the same thing as you told the person that you first spoke to. Sometimes that person is the police, sometimes it's a relative or a family member, but it could just be a stranger. Might be somebody that you met on the street who is the first person that you ran into. If you have to tell them so that they can help you, very important to get their name and number afterwards so they can become part of the investigation. And I just want to say here at this moment that if you fail on any of these steps, it's not a problem. This is the ideal, and life seldom works out according to the ideal. If you go to a hospital rape center, you get free medical attention. And the health risks associated with rape are very serious ones. So this is always very advisable. You can go to your private doctor, you can go to a clinic, but if you go to a designated rape center, you'll get the best service that you possibly can get for free. And sometimes that's even better than a paid service, because these services are geared up for rape survivors and to help people who are victims of sexual assault. Your medical attention should include any injuries that you might have, an HIV test, medication to prevent HIV, medicine to prevent sexually transmitted infections, pregnancy prevention, emotional support, and referrals for any kind of other service that you might need, like a shelter. And the second presentation will go at more detail on these health risks. You want to get this medical attention quite quickly. 72 hours or 3 days, that's what you have. The reason for this is it's the best time to take the medication to prevent HIV, sexually transmitted diseases, or pregnancy. And it's also the best time to collect DNA evidence of the rapist. The rapist leaves DNA evidence on the body, could be semen, blood, saliva. All of that disappears after 72 hours. And that's also a reason why it's very important not to wash or change your clothes. And if you do change your clothes and you take them with you to the hospital for forensic reasons, you would wrap them in a paper bag or some newspaper or a cloth bag, not in a plastic bag. Plastic bags cause the evidence to denature, so you don't want to do that. Then if you are a woman who is fertile in childbearing age and not on any kind of contraception, you're going to be thinking about pregnancy as a risk. If you feel pregnant as a result of the rape, you can request an abortion. That is also a medical service that the state provides. It will be for 12 weeks at a district hospital and 20 weeks at a regional hospital. After that, you're not able to get an abortion in South Africa. So the morning after pill is very, very important. If you meet those criteria as a pregnancy risk, take that prevention. And then once you've been through all of that grueling ordeal, potentially speaking to the police, potentially going through the medical examination and the forensic examination, you'll need to take time off work or school if you can, and to heal from that trauma. So the emotional aspects of the trauma are very important, and to look for counseling and support and advice at the time that you need it. And I say take time off. That might not be immediately after the rape. For many women, I think they experience the time of, it's almost like when you have a plaster cast over a broken bone, a time of silence, a time of not speaking, a time of not thinking about what has happened to them. So it might be that you only need to take that time off or reach out for that counseling 3, 6 months later. Some people take years, 20 or 30 years to talk about it. That's absolutely fine. There's no rules about this. It's entirely up to you as to when you want to speak about this, because the important thing is that you feel safe, you feel ready to talk about what's happened to you in the way that you choose, on your terms, and to the person that you really want to speak to. And sometimes that takes a bit of shopping around. So we'll get to that a little bit later. So part of the time that you take can be a time where you think about reporting to the police or not. Like I said before, you don't have to, but you need to know what the time constraints are. So if you go to a TCLA care center or a forensic unit, they will keep your evidence for 30 days, after which they'll destroy it. It means that you've got 30 days in the immediate aftermath to decide if you want a stronger court case to go with the DNA evidence. And after that, you can still report at any time in your life, but the DNA evidence won't be there. So that's the decision that you've got to make. And this is the information that you've got to put in mind in order to make that decision. And you need to educate yourself about that process. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to go to the police. It's going to be tough to stand in a rape trial, even if you do have witnesses alongside of you, and even if you do have DNA evidence, even if you have the perfect case. It's very, very difficult. And Of course, it all depends on the police arresting the rapist in the first place. That person will have to attend a bail hearing and be allowed out on bail. Many rapists can then be very intimidating towards the person that they've raped to try and get them to drop the case. They can try to pay money to your family. They can harass you on the street corner if they live close by you. There are many ways in which they can put fear into you. But sometimes for many rape survivors, that's the reason why they want to go ahead with the case, because they do want that person to go to jail in the end. There are many reasons for that. So there's a lot of things to think through, and there's a lot of issues that you have to weigh up in terms of your own pain and your own healing and your own journey towards getting justice. You deserve justice, you can get justice, but you need to know that the journey that you're going to face can take quite a long time. It can take up to 3 years. And I've made it sound difficult and I've made it sound challenging, and I've done that on purpose because I think if you're going to be resilient, you have to look something in the eye and understand it very clearly and make up your mind. But there are very clear rights within the South African criminal justice system that are yours. Any victim of crime of any sort has these rights. You have the right to be treated with fairness and respect for your dignity. You have the right to give information. You have the right to receive information. And you have the right to be protected from further harm. And above all, you have the right to be assisted. At every step of the way, you have this right. And if South Africa is not living up to your expectations of these rights, you have a right to complain. So all of the services that I spoke about earlier must be accessible to you through sign language. Otherwise, none of these rights are upheld or not very well. And that means you can complain if this doesn't happen. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to go about doing that. So that's the end of the presentation, and time for questioning. Something I meant to say at the very beginning of the session, and I don't know if you said it, Claudine, when you opened up, but we've never done this before. We're quite nervous. We've no idea how it's going to work or if it's going to work. So we've built in a little bit of time for playing around with things to see if they work. So we're going to go into the question and answer session now. And Kirsty's going to manage some of the text.